Hello and welcome. My name is Vanessa Espinoza, and on behalf of FileCloud and Carahsoft, I would like to welcome you to our webinar, The Future of Secure File Sharing and Data Governance. Carahsoft is the trusted government IT solution provider. As a top-performing GSA Schedule, ITES, and NASA SOUP contract holder, Carahsoft serves as FileCloud's master distributor. Working as strategic partners and through a robust ecosystem of value-added channel partners and system integrators, Carahsoft delivers FileCloud solutions to federal, state, and local government agencies, as well as the education community. Our contact information will be at the end of the presentation if there's anything we can help you with. At this time, I'd like to introduce our speaker, Kevin Dubac. Kevin is the FileCloud Federal Solutions Architect and is a former U.S. federal government employee and federal government contractor with experience in various positions, including a USMC Program Office of Record. Kevin, thank you for being here, and the floor is yours.
Everybody, glad everybody can make it here. Oh, Vanessa, I cannot screen share. Oh, now I can. Let me get set up. All right, good afternoon, everybody, and good morning. I see a couple familiar names in chat. So for those who don't know me, I'm Kevin. I am one of the solutions architects here at FileCloud, and I have a very heavy presence in federal. I have my camera on so everybody can see me. However, I'm going to turn it off because it's throwing a bunch of errors at me, and I don't want to crash my presentation. So let me do that very quickly, get that out of the way. All right, so a little bit about FileCloud. Originally started in Austin, Texas, about 2016, although our core group goes back to the mid-2000s, and have been creating technology as a group since then. In recent years, we've spread to both Limerick, Ireland, and Dubai in the UAE to support both our Europe and Middle Eastern deployment options and customers. But we currently support global deployments across the world in every sort of sector and infrastructure environment possible. We have numerous different partnership ecosystem in there, including the one that has brought us here today with Carahsoft. Our team predominantly is located in North America. However, as you can see, we have a footprint everywhere across the globe. Our team is dominated mostly by our research and development groups, which allows us to stay on the leading edge of data security requirements, especially when it comes to meeting those requirements and regulations on a country by country basis, since every country kind of differentiates what they're looking for. Our global footprint allows us to support pretty much any deployment, any infrastructure in any time zone, giving us the benefit of being able to provide that real-time support at all times. At our foundation, we provide capabilities in about 5 different main offerings. Options including data governance around metadata integration and automated classification so that you can keep your data in check and keep it organized, as well as allowing remote access from anywhere at any time, whether it be on a mobile device, a desktop, or through a browser, including the ability to sync data between a local server and a remote server. Our options also tie into a compliance piece, allowing us to have a configuration center so we can adhere to those various regulations and requirements as needed, as well as the ability to set up structured system-wide policies to meet any requirements in the environment itself. On top of all this compliance and sharing capability, we offer DLP and DRM protections, as well as antivirus integrations so that files can be maintained, secured, and properly vetted for access to the system before users can even touch them and manipulate them, as well as the ability for dedicated workflow automation around different parts of the system, whether an administrator or an end user, so that it's ease of use of operation and simplified UI so users can continue to use the site without trouble and without issue. So why FileCloud? File sharing is a foundational piece of every IT infrastructure, no matter where you are, whether you're in the cloud or on-premise. So we designed our product to provide that higher level of security and access features that you wouldn't normally have in a standard IT infrastructure environment. We offer different deployment models, whether it's in a cloud solution or an on-premise solution, as well as supporting even deeper into a closed loop or air gap systems for those want those out there environments that can't connect to the internet or don't have any way to talk back to the world. We support the use of multi-tenant setups, which enable service providers the ability to have a centralized site management system, which allows them to cut back on excess resource usage or hardware cost, as well as a handful of integration tools that cover everything from file integrations to security integrations and automation integrations to keep your site functioning up to date and on the leading edge security as needed. Switch. From the beginning, FileCloud was designed with a handful of common use cases that affected most all environments. Our bread and butter use case, which is secure file sharing both internally and externally, allows organizations to spread their access from not only an internal standpoint, but out to their business partners or even their own customers. This gives a direct collaboration technique that a typical file server wouldn't allow. Our software is storage agnostic, meaning that it can be installed in pretty much any environment and connect to existing storage features, whether it's a standard Windows file server or different NAS features or even different cloud storage options like S3 or Azure blobs, allowing organizations to modernize their aging and existing infrastructure. Part of that modernization allows users to directly connect to existing storage platforms or even FileCloud's managed storage options without VPNs, without gateways in place, allowing that direct authentication piece to their data without needing to jump through hoops or find ways to connect or even be in the office just to connect to them. On top of that capability of being able to sit on storage, that allows us to sit on multiple storages at the same time, which gives us the ability to do multi-site synchronization between either internal office areas or even across geographic regions. This allows for organizations to have a dedicated hot backup system if they need something to help mitigate with disaster recovery, or even provide a localized login specific region for each user based on the regions they're in, while maintaining a larger system of integrations there, allowing synchronized data that maintains across a global factor, but not needing to set up multiple replication services between them just to meet that requirement. We base ourselves on security, so compliance and regulations are a big piece for us. So we have built-in compliance regulation requirements within our admin portals, as well as designing our features and functions around those requirements so we can maintain a secure standpoint, even with growing security concerns, to make sure that your data stays controlled, safe, accessible as needed. And obviously with every environment, as users grow, as data grows, we have built-in automated document workflows. This allows for both admins and users to set up workflow options to keep data flow intact, to provide a heavy lifting of the data flow across the system without needing to manually do every feature and function to keep your data secure and safe. And it keeps it all accounted for using built-in integration systems. So this is the main question. How does FileCloud consider and contribute to the future of secure file sharing and governance in a growing world? At our base level, we use a multi-layer security protocol architecture to keep systems secure, but also tie that into a intuitive and simplified UI and access system so that users are not overly complicated or overly unsure of how they're using the system to keep things secure and keep things from flowing in the correct direction. At our foundation, we base ourselves on two different content models. FileCloud provides a managed storage piece, allowing for a structuring of what is normally unstructured native data types, and then also allowing for the ability to tie into existing storage platforms, whether it's on-premise or in the cloud, to allow you a central content location from a central managed site. With that foundation in place, FileCloud provides a couple of layers of extra security around the system. Our first one being metadata. FileCloud provides options to tag metadata with both predefined and custom-built metadata options so that the system knows what data is, where it's going, and how it's being handled. We can tie that into our access control system, both allowing sharing permissions and more granular access control systems so that every single user accessing the site is accounted for, their permissions that are in place, and they cannot see what they're not supposed to see. Add to that governance to make sure that we're meeting the regulation requirements, whether it's through direct compliance pieces like SmartDLP for data loss, or metadata tagging to make sure that data types are accounted for, to even things such as retention policies to make sure that data on the system is following any retention requirements across the environment. Our DLP system is highly customizable. It provides the ability to dictate who can access the system, how they can access the system, and what they can pull down from the system. We'll go further in that a little bit later, but it provides a layer of protection there to make sure that any data on the system is correctly handled, no matter how somebody is logging into the system. Our compliance piece gives direct compliance regulatory rules in their FileCloud environment. Things such as NIST and ITAR can be easily set through FileCloud's Compliance Center to make sure that those rules that exist in the regulatory body are being followed by your site. It's a big piece there to know that everything is adhering to what's available and what's ruled. And on top of that, we have data DRM, data rights management there to make sure that when data is being shared, when users are accessing this data, it's correctly accounted for, it's correctly protected. This includes higher level features such as screen share blocking or text blurring to make sure that when data is being shared, even in a shared environment or a on-premise environment where there might be people looking over your shoulder, that data is still protected, it's still accounted for, and any actions taken on that data, the system knows about and reports back with any findings. FileCloud is based on we've designed our architecture on the Zero Trust suite of design by the NSA. So they have their 7 pillars of Zero Trust. Our architecture is based around that design. In their 7 pillars, we adhere to each of these pillars in a way that provides intuitive access to the system while remaining secure. So from a user and device standpoint, we provide direct authentication capabilities, such as Active Directory or even SSO, to provide identity support and maintaining that identity support throughout the process rather than just a single logon and then forget about it. The system continuously is verifying identities to make sure who is accessing the system has the rights to access it. From a applications and data standpoint, we have encryption technologies built in to both encrypt data at rest and in transit leveraging storage encryption techniques and transport encryption techniques to make sure that when data is accessed, whenever it moves around, it's secure, it's encrypted, and it remains where it needs to be. Our granular controls also assist to make sure that each person, each application, each system accessing FileCloud is maintained, is adhering to the properties on the system to make sure that everything is as it says it is. To assist with functionality across FileCloud, we provide numerous automation tools and analytic tools. This includes the ability to set up automated workflows or tie into existing automation tools such as CM modules or antivirus modules to be able to adhere to data recording metrics and visibility metrics, as well as a full auditing engine that captures every single auditing option on the system, whether it's from a user or an admin, to make sure that for forensic reasons and for capturability reasons, every single piece of the system is noted, accounted for, and following what needs to be done. So a lot of features there. However, we like to try to make it as simple and intuitive as possible. Our UI system is designed to follow traditional UI design layouts to keep users from having to learn something completely new every time they switch systems. These systems are available to be accessed by any browser, desktop computer, or even mobile clients, both on Windows and Mac and Linux itself. Our structured design allows users to translate their knowledge from existing file sharing techniques or even standard Windows file sharing techniques into the FileCloud environment so they can continue on without having to go through full leverage training. And from the admin standpoint, we've designed the admin flows to be just as intuitive, just as simplified as the user portal so that admins can configure the site correctly without needing to have a degree in FileCloudology just to be able to find out what they need to do. As I mentioned, we have a couple different deployment models. Our 2 main models are online, which is our SaaS solution, and on-premise. Our online solution is built in the AWS regions. We support both standard and GovCloud regions. Each of these instances is a private FileCloud instance per customer with their own private S3 storage backend behind it. This allows for a scalable environment that can easily be updated, changed, and designed on the go, and allows for us to leverage AWS's existing security techniques and existing secure platform to make sure that everything is secure, everything is accounted for, and resides in a reliable data solution. Our on-premise piece, you can install both in a Windows and a Linux environment. This includes air-gapped, this includes closed network environments. It's a very straightforward, simple setup, and it can exist on multiple operating systems at the same time. As I mentioned, we're storage agnostic, so if you're putting us into an environment that already has storage capability in it, FileCloud can directly tie into those to serve those files to users, but provide a central point of access rather than segregated access points. Part of our on-premise ability is the ability to serve high availability cluster support. You can have multiple nodes, different nodes for different setups to make sure that there's redundancy in your environment. So if something goes down, the site remains up, as well as that site-to-site replication, so that if worst case scenario, your entire environment comes down, you have another environment that's replicated that is still available. This further dives into the ability to tie FileCloud into a public cloud offering, whether it's your own private AWS or your own Azure environment like GCC or GCC High, as well as on Oracle's cloud environment. We have marketplace options available for all three of those, as well as the ability to just self-deploy directly into those environments. So let's take a look at FileCloud itself. From a user standpoint, we have a couple different options available. As you're seeing here, this is the private store, the built-in personal storage for licensed users. We dictate it as my files, and in this storage, users can upload, download, share data as needed. It is relevant to the user who's using it, so no one else can access it until they've been granted the ability to share. And users who have access to this can share both internally with other team members or other people in the company, or externally with partners, other groups they're working with, contracting groups and whatnot, all from the interface of FileCloud. From a shared team workspace view, predominantly used in FileCloud's environment is team folders. Team folders allow admins to create a shared workspace for users and groups to work out of. They can be assigned as desired, whether it's down to specific users, down to specific groups, and further allowing these users and groups to share externally as needed to provide that central collaboration technique, both internally and externally in one shared location. The My File section and the Team Folder section are what we consider managed storage, both of them leveraging full encryption at rest and in transit, so that they can also adhere to also be leveraging FileCloud's full suite of functionality across the site. We also, as I mentioned, we're storage agnostic. We can tie into various remote network storages and multiple at the same time. FileCloud has the ability to enumerate NTFS permissions. So if you're tying into an existing NTFS environment, FileCloud can enumerate your users against that to make sure that your existing storage portfolio is shared in FileCloud so that users are still accessing the files they're allowed to access. These can be shared as dictated, or you can share them with a default permission set for users that might not exist in your environment, giving you the ability to share existing infrastructure with external users that aren't quite in your network and your topology. Each of these, just like team folders and my files, can be dictated at a high level of granularity to make sure that users only have access to what you want them to have access to and nothing else. And these all permissions can be granted and taken at any point in time to help adapt the environment to the needs. These storages include the ability to tie into an existing S3 network directly from your on-premise, allowing you some more scalable storage solutions using object storage in a cloud environment. So file sharing, we try to make it as simple as possible while remaining secure as possible. So it gives seamless access to files from anywhere, anytime, any device. This includes internal employees, this includes external consultants, anybody and anywhere, as long as they have access to your site. File shares can be created by any user that has permissions for sharing. They can be shared publicly or privately, or even in a zero trust container, which is password protected. On top of that, public shares can be made password protected. You can set expiration dates and download limits to make sure that data isn't sitting out in the open for longer than you need it to be, or sitting out there without you knowing it. And on top of that, you can link into these granular permissions to make sure that each user, each group accessing the data is following the rules of engagement of the site itself. Sharing files is very simple. It's done by the click of a button. So we have a couple different share options available. As I mentioned, we have public and private options. As you can see here, in this share, you also have the ability to customize shared links and share names, so you can better brand the system to what you want it to say, as well as dictate the exact permissions of users who can access. Public sharing allows users to either view and download or upload, or even give view only or upload only types of documentation collection. So that way you can either share files without worrying them leaving the system, or share a link for users to upload data that you don't want them to see once it's uploaded. Aside of that, we also have private sharing, where you can share directly with internal and external users and dictate the permissions they have to be able to work out of those shares. This allows users to parse against the authentication system of your FileCloud instance before accessing that data to make sure that everything's accounted for, users' identities are accounted for, and allows you to force users to go through any kind of SSO or AD functionality or even multi-factor functionality you need before they can access this data. Every share can be customized to fit whatever access needs are available there, whether it's max upload size so that they're not uploading more data than they need to, or dictating max number of downloads, or even directly changing share links to make sure that they stand out and make sense to those you're sharing files with. Zero trust file sharing. So this is our third option of sharing. It provides a zero trust fully encrypted zip folder that you can share internally or externally. These are password protected and they can be set with read only or read write permissions themselves. The benefit here is that the zip encryption key is not stored within the FileCloud itself. So FileCloud, an admin user cannot go in and access the zip folder once it is created. Only the user who's created the share has functionality within there. It provides a more secure, higher level of sharing so that users can directly know that their files are safe and secure. Administration-wise, FileCloud is designed to allow administrators to use the same suite of capability that an end user can, all from a browser with ease of management and a fully defined portal. The admin portal provides admins the ability to customize anything and everything across the system and configure things as needed, all from a well-designed, easily designed browser GUI. Setting up users, groups, employing team folders, managing devices, governance and management can all be done straight from the browser without the need to go configure different files or different settings on your system itself. User management is meant to be straightforward and simple. We have a couple different user management options. Authentication wise, you can either have FileCloud's default authentication, which is a simple username and password. This can be subject to various options like multi-factor authentication, terms of service requirements, and different levels of security functionality like password limits, complexity, and requirements in that nation. Our access level types, we have a couple different access levels, notably our full guest and external access types. Admins can change access levels for a user on the fly as needed and dictate how they can access the system. Because we have our external user types, which are not licensed with us, that don't have a cost against the system, it allows admins to adapt users to that situation to make sure that if you're collaborating with other environments, you can maintain that collaboration without having to pay for every single user accessing the system. The user management system itself allows admins to go in and access users' files, any shares they've created, any mobile devices they may have accessing the system, and dictate what they can and can't do with those or move them around as needed, as well as get a quick overview of each user, how much storage they're using when they last logged in, if they've accepted terms of service, even edit stuff like phone numbers for MFA or edit emails if they change their emails around. All is available at the click of a finger from the user management portal. As mentioned, Active Directory and SAML SSO are both supported in FileCloud. These logins can be limited to certain groups. So that way, if you're in an Active Directory environment or a SSO environment, you can directly limit who can actually access the FileCloud site without needing to generate their accounts first and then block everyone else. We can provide Active Directory integration over secure LDAP, so make sure that every piece of the connection is secure, going over TLS and SSL traffic. We also provide the ability to connect to multiple AD servers at one time. This provides a higher level of cross-domain functionality and allows to parse in different domains, or especially in a multi-tenant setup where you might have different users from different domains accessing the system all as one. You can also bulk import users from your AD environment. This allows admins to pull users in without needing to go in and manually generate them every time, or you can allow users to create their own accounts through the login screen itself. On the SAML side, similar functionality, being able to limit the login groups of who can access. We can also parse against multiple providers at one time, allowing you to connect to different domains to allow SSO across the entire environment without needing to, have external users only be a default authentication type system. The SSO login can be forced, so that way users have to go through your SSO requirements before they can access the system. And ADFS integration exists there so that you can further delve into a trust relationship, and that includes, adding options such as CAC and PIV authentication, so that they can use their certificates rather than just a login name and password. FileCloud has built-in group management. Admins can set up groups as needed, and this includes having the ability to allow groups to have group admins. Group admins can edit group properties without needing to have full admin capability, so preventing, working on that least privilege functionality. And we also have the capability, if tied into an Active Directory server, to do a bulk group import from the AD server itself. The benefit of the group import is that you can set up an automatic syncing function. So that way, when your IT group is working directly out of Active Directory and they're making any changes to users, FileCloud can automatically sync that to the server to make sure that users who are added or users who are removed or disabled follow that functionality so that they follow the same permissions within FileCloud itself. Granularity. So FileCloud has sharing permissions, but we also have access level controls on our system. We call them folder level security. Similar to an NTFS environment or another ACL environment, these can be dictated on a per user, per group basis, straight down to a file and folder level. Permissions can be inherited, and they work specifically on a most restrictive system, making sure that if there's any permission overlaps or any permission conflicts, the most restrictive design is going to win, so that unauthorized access is prevented, and that the system itself is safe and secure. Built-in compliance. So compliance is a big piece for us. As I mentioned at the beginning, we have built-in compliance sets for a couple of different regulatory bodies right now, with more and more being included as we create more versions. We currently support ITAR, HIPAA, GDPR, NIST, and PDPL. These compliance sets allow admins to go in and see the rule sets as they're denoted and how they apply to FileCloud. When a rule is enabled, FileCloud will perform an automated check to make sure that the rule is being followed. It will ask for any information or any settings that need to be set before the rule is permitted. And if something is wrong, if there's an issue with the rule itself, it will report back a finding and a violation, all of which will be denoted to the admin every day with a built-in admin summary email to make sure that any violations are accounted for or any knowledge is known. Each of these rules directly regulates to the rule set themselves. As I mentioned, we're adding more and more as time goes on. NIST is one of our newest ones, and we are currently working on expanding into the NIST environment of all the control sets it provides. But it just gives a clear oversight to admins that have a direct requirement for these compliance sets to go in and say, FileCloud does adhere to that. Here's how it does. Here's the setting I have in place to make sure that we continue to do so. Data loss prevention. FileCloud has a SmartDLP system in place. This allows admins to build custom rules around the system to handle DLP at all parts of the environment, whether it's through logins, whether it's through share creation, or even downloading. FileCloud can create these rules to make sure that what needs to be in place is in place. Basic rules exist for features such as preventing logins unless you're from a certain country. We have download rules available to prevent downloads based on metadata or on file types, and even the option to fully prevent public shares across systems, so you don't have to worry about users creating a public share on accident and opening your system up to the outside world. Each of these rules allows you to tie further into the compliance pieces of ITAR compliance being US specific, or NIST compliance preventing public sharing, all of which can be dictated across the system to make sure that data you have on the system resides on the system, stays on the system, and doesn't go where you don't want it to go. Each of these sets provides a built-in GUI editor, or you can also, if you're more willing to, you can use the text editor, which gives a little bit more customizability there. But each of these gives a nice simplified GUI to make sure that when admins are setting these rules, they understand what the rules mean, they understand what the rules are doing, and that they can properly be enforced as needed. On top of that, rules can be defined with a notification system so that users are aware of what rule they might be breaking if they're trying to attempt something they shouldn't do. On top of this, we have content classification. FileCloud itself has a built-in search indexing tool that allows us to do smart classification across the system. As systems grow, as more storage and more is used and more files are created, going through and manually organizing files, manually tagging and dictating files is a bit of a headache. So FileCloud's tool allows automation in regards to this. Our classification tool allows us to automatically tag files with any custom metadata sets that you exist on the system. These metadata sets can then be tied into workflows and SmartDLP to make sure that when files are uploaded or edited or exist on the system, they're part of the data flow, they're part of the controlled process, and that any security pieces you have in place can then go in and leverage that metadata classification system to make sure everything is accounted for, everything is controlled, and prevent unauthorized release of any kind of data. All of which is done through a simple and easy GUI on the system to make rules and patterns. These checks allow it to check for phrases, expressions, markings, anything you desire you want to set through. The search engine will search for it and make sure that if it exists in the document will be tagged appropriately. With that in mind, automated workflows are a big part of the system. Automated workflows can leverage anything from on the admin side and the user side. From the admin portal, this allows more admin level techniques, such as being able to create reports, to dictate share management and control, and even allow for automated account adjustments, like disabling accounts after a certain amount of inactivity, or delete accounts after a certain amount of time. All of that is available as a workflow for admins so that everything is done automatically without the need to go through and manually do each process. From a user standpoint, users also have access to their own workflow system. This allows for some more file-centric, data-centric workflow options, such as share approvals, file approvals, or even the ability to move files around on the system on certain actions. This allows for a higher level of data control, even from a user standpoint, just to make sure that everything is accounted for. And the file approval techniques allow users to prevent files and shares from existing on the system without someone approving or a group of people approving that things should be how they are, that things are in place. Auditing. Auditing is the end-all be-all of security and of compliance. It doesn't matter what's in place. If it's not accounted for, it's not a real thing. So all these DLP rules, classification patterns, everything that the system does, every action committed, whether it's by an admin or by a user, it is all accounted for by FileCloud's auditing engine. The auditing capability, or the auditing logs, are visible by the admin through the browser. You can sort, you can search. They're listed in a chronological order on a non-rotating log, so audit files will continue to exist even as years go on, unless you set up, automatic audit archiving. This allows for forensics or for auditing tools, auditing reports to go back and generate these reports based on what users are doing, what admins are doing, and make sure that if there's any issues, any concerns, the auditing capability will detect it and be able to report back with its findings. This audit system and the alert system can be tied into existing CM modules on your network, or CM tools on your network, allowing you to have a real-time monitoring system for your FileCloud instance alongside any other products in your environment. And it captures every single thing, even if an admin goes through and tries to change things around. Application-wise, so FileCloud offers a couple of different ways to access the system outside of the mobile or the web browser. We currently have two main client applications, FileCloud Drive and Sync. FileCloud Drive is a Windows and Mac available application. It acts as a map drive into the system. So typical as a Windows file server where you'd have a mapped file, a mapped folder drive. FileCloud Drive acts similar to that to keep documentation, keep data on the server itself and not on a local machine. This provides clients the ability to go in, access their data with their preferred applications, whether it be through standard Office or even engineering type files with CAD or different Adobe type files. When files are accessed, they're automatically locked by the application itself to prevent users from accessing data that's already being accessed, keeping corruption away, keeping data overwriting or data loss away. And then, as I mentioned, these are all changes are saved on the server, so the server maintains that secure availability of the files, but allows clients to connect from their local desktop. Sync acts in a similar functionality. It gives users on a client machine the ability to access their files and folders from their machine itself. The big difference here is that Sync allows you to download those files locally. The benefit being that the files are local, so they're quicker to access, and it means that you can access them offline. When a user is not connected to the network, when they're not on the internet, they can continue to access these files, make changes, make edits, and then when they reestablish that connection back to the server, those edits will be synced back to the server in real time. We have built-in conflict resolution techniques there to make sure that if a file is accessed offline and the server doesn't know about it, when it's reconnected to the server, instead of data loss, data being overwritten, different options are allowed to exist there so that data isn't lost, data isn't prevented, including the ability to do versioning, where different version files are added to the same file so that users can continue to work on the files they have without needing to worry about data loss. We also allow access for mobile applications, both on iOS and Android. They provide the ability to have a direct connection to the server, as well as the ability to have offline documentation as well for on the move access. All client applications can be remotely managed by the FileCloud ad server itself. Central management allows you to set configurations, to pull logs, and even block devices and wipe them if needed. The wipe will wipe out any device, any documentation, any data that these applications have downloaded, and then prevent them from connecting back to the system to pull them back down. In terms of DRM, we also provide a secure document viewer. This both is a client and we have availability in the web browser now. This gives extra DRM capabilities like those screenshot and screen recording prevention, as well as the blurred screen restricted view to make sure that when you're accessing a document, nobody can browse over your shoulder, nobody can look at your screen and see the document in full to make sure that everything is safe and secure. These documents can be revoked at any point in time by whoever is sharing them, immediately blocking their access and cutting them off from it, as well as setting up timers for how long they can access it for, how many times they can download it, and examples like that. FileCloud also promotes numerous integrations. We integrate heavily with Microsoft 365. FileCloud itself has the ability to do Microsoft 365 online editing. This gives the ability for users, especially those in a 365 environment, to use the native apps that they're familiar with while keeping the data within FileCloud in a secure environment. This extends the ability to tie into Outlook and Teams. Our Outlook plugin allows users to access their data directly from their email app, as well as gives the functionality for users who are trying to send files that might be too large for the Exchange server to handle. FileCloud's plugin will automatically create a share for it and share that with the desired user to keep file sharing easy and simple without needing to break files down or provide a way to get files through the system. In terms of Teams gives access to the files similar as Outlook does, the ability for Teams users to go in and access their files, share with other users through Teams, collaborate together in that Teams environment to keep things native and collected, while also working in the FileCloud secure environment for where the data resides itself. A couple extras about what FileCloud can and can't do. So FileCloud is very API driven. All of our API is publicly available, both for admin and user capabilities. This allows API scripting in the environment to connect additional tools, to provide admin functionality through API scripting. and allow deeper integration with various clients, third-party software systems that are maybe more API centric. As I mentioned, FileCloud leverages as a search indexer included with the system. This is Solr and Solr OCR. These provide a fully federated search capability as well as that search indexing functionality to make sure that users can search for files not only by file names, but they have the capability to search through files for phrases and text within the file itself, providing that deeper level of file and document searching capability. Every FileCloud site could be fully customized to meet the branding of your own nature. When users access a file sharing platform, they tend to want to access a platform that they know is owned by their group or the group they're working with. So FileCloud adheres to that by allowing you to change logos, login information, even change the CSS of the CSS of the system so that users are aware of what they're accessing, how they're or who they're accessing, and who has control of that system. That includes options such as setting terms of service, setting different login links and different download links to make sure that when users are in your environment, they're staying in your environment. We have that antivirus integration, so you can tie into various antivirus tools so that when files are uploaded, they're automatically scanned and double checked for validity and that they're not malicious. This provides an extra level of security to make sure that files aren't getting into your system you don't want there. And this includes the capability to check twice into wrapped files, such as zip files or malformed files, to make sure that if someone's trying to get around the system by changing the file extension, FileCloud can be aware of that to prevent it from getting on the system. On top of the 365 integration, we also integrate directly with Google applications such as Docs and Sheets and whatnot. Just like the 365 option, this allows users who are more comfortable working out of those their Google applications that they use on a day-to-day basis. They can continue to do so while the data still resides in FileCloud. So it adheres to all the security, all the regulations you have in your FileCloud, but allows users to work out of their preferred file editing software. So FileCloud, how do we use it today? So we are currently used across global enterprise and federal agencies. We sit in both NIPR and SIPR environments, air-gapped environments, as well as on-site testing locations, providing that quick and easy stand-up for file sharing and file analytical abilities in an environment where the infrastructure is limited. A couple of different agencies we work with. We're very heavy in the DoD, especially with the MDA, the Missile Defense Agency. We have deployments with NASA, the Army Corps of Engineers, as well as the Department of Energy. Commercial-wise, we work across the states, across the globe in various commercial environments, accounting offices, law firms, even in healthcare environments, to make sure that we can support various regulatory needs and that those customers can also meet those needs of their environment and fulfill what options they have while maintaining a secure footprint. And recently this year, as of May, we have acquired Synority. They are an e-signature group based out of Canada. We are currently working with them to do a full platform integration, which we plan to have by the end of this year in Q4. This will give us the option to have e-signature capability within the FileCloud ecosystem itself. The ability to share files directly with users and require a signature on top of that, or just provide direct document signing within the FileCloud house without needing to have another application or leverage another product just to fulfill that requirement. As I mentioned, we don't have it yet, but it is planned to be here by the end of the year. All right, and that is it for me today. If I had 5 hours to talk, I could probably talk the entire time and tell you about every single facet of FileCloud, but I don't want to go too deep into it. So if anybody has any questions or any concerns, you're more than welcome to ask them.
Yeah, Kevin, I'll ask you real quick to stop sharing your screen so I can reshare again. And at this time, we're going to take a few minutes for any questions. So if you have any about anything that Kevin has covered today or maybe didn't cover today, please leave them in the Q&A pod at the bottom of your screen. All right, it looks like one came through. Kevin, can you provide examples of how FileCloud has helped other government agencies improve their data governance and file sharing best practices?
Yeah, I definitely can. So as I mentioned, we can exist in our or we can sit in with already existing infrastructure. Um, as most people know, file servers, file systems have existed for decades now, and they typically are a bit dated and out of maintainability. So FileCloud can sit in there to provide that extra level of access to allow for more rigid authentication structures, more complex encryption techniques and encryption standards to make sure that these ever-growing regulations and ever exceeding regulations are being followed by your environment, even if you are sitting on old infrastructure, old technology, without the need to do a full suite of upgrades in your environment. We provide that extra layer of a secure footprint there to make sure that everything on the system is being protected at every part of access, whether it's by on login, preventing logins from unauthorized users, preventing data from leaking off the system when it shouldn't be, or shutting down private or public shares so that data can't be publicly shared across your environment, or even options to allow users to better collaborate in a secure environment through data they already have in place with external customers, external agencies, and whatnot, but still leverage those direct identity requirements that may not be available when a user is coming from outside in your environment.
All right, and then another question was, how does FileCloud protect sensitive government documents during external collaboration when the files move beyond your network boundaries?
Yeah, so we have our DRM capabilities in place to make sure that when a file leaves our boundary, everything that happens to it is accounted for. And that includes the ability to shut down that access immediately to make sure that those files are no longer accessible, to make sure that any kind of clients connecting to it are accounted for, and to make sure that when a file leaves the system, if someone is trying to record it, trying to screenshot it, trying to maliciously attack it, our DRM is in place to prevent that from occurring. It provides a ability to not only block from software level attacks at a screen recording, at a screenshotting level, but also prevent in-person types of attacks where it might be someone looking over your shoulder, trying to take notes from behind you. All of these DRM techniques can exist to prevent that data from escaping and from being easily readable by an authorized user at the endpoint.
This question was, how does FileCloud secure remote access and collaboration tools integrate with existing government IT infrastructure to enhance efficiency and productivity?
Yeah, so a little bit more towards the first question is that we can directly integrate with existing products like Office 365, Google Apps, or even existing storage networks and storage topology to allow you to have these systems in place, but leverage a highly required, highly secure platform for encryption for authentication. So with these tying into the environments, with FileCloud sitting on top of your network or sitting on top of your file sharing needs, we can provide that secure integration with tools that may not have the level of capability for granting access to users that FileCloud does. Whether it be a tool that doesn't have a way to tie into an Active Directory system or tie into NTFS permissions, or a tool that works more off of a shared access. FileCloud can then dictate that access through authenticated behaviors and include multi-factor authentication or direct SSO implementation so that when users are accessing these tools and technology, FileCloud stands as the buffer between what might be unsecured and what users can access, providing that secure wall of connection pipeline so that anything that you're integrating with is maintaining FileCloud secure footprint.
All right. Well, at this time, we don't have any more questions, but thank you again, Kevin, for your presentation, and thank you for joining us today. We hope you found this webinar was informative and helpful to you and your organization.